Now, he rather rushed this expedition through, and although he might have thought there was great glory in it, there were others who were very, very much more cautious. This man is Sir John Ross. He was the uncle of James Clark Ross. He was, again, you can see from the pelt over his shoulder, he was a distinguished Arctic explorer, too old to really go on any more expeditions, but he said very, very clearly that he thought these two ships were going to be too heavy and too difficult and too clumsy to manoeuvre through the Northwest Passage. They had both the ships, Erebus and Terror, had been fitted with locomotive engines so that they could get 25 horsepower engines which would see them through the ice at difficult moments. But that meant coal, it meant much heavier weight, a much bigger propeller, sorry. So he said this is, the ships have been prepared in the wrong way. They're not the right ships to send through. He also felt that the Admiralty had given no instructions as to what should happen if they were lost or stuck or went off course. There was no provision for them to leave messages at regular spots. There was no provision for them to leave food drops. It might have been useful if they had to come back and retreat. But Sir John Franklin, who had been given charge of the expedition, would not hear of anything like this. He said, that's failure, we've no time to do anything like that. We're just going to get on with it, and now is the moment. The country's behind us. We've just got to get on with it and go. There was another man called Richard King, who I quite like in this story. We don't know a great deal about him. He's obviously somebody who nobody liked very much at all. He's obviously, everyone says he rubbed people up the wrong way and was very testy and grumpy. But he was very often right about everything, which is the worst kind of, something like that. And he said that if you sending John Franklin to the Arctic was like sending him to become the nucleus of an iceberg, which is a wonderfully chilling, bad pun again, chilling phrase, but actually it almost came true in the end. However, the momentum was there. Lady Jane Franklin was pushing very hard for her husband to be given this command, and she was whipping up interest in the expedition. She it was who commissioned a photographer with a daguerreotype camera to take these rather fascinating, interesting pictures of all the officers on Erebus. So we have a little gallery of the people who went up with Franklin into the Northwest Passage. There's this man here. Well, this is John Franklin himself. This is not really his best day, was it? I mean, let's be honest. He was obviously had trouble buttoning his jacket up. He looks sort of pasty-faced, and not really the sort of person you want to lead you through some of the most difficult seas in the world. At the age of 59, he was 59 years old. This again rather a sort of controversial decision. Anyway, this was the rather key man on the expedition was James Fitzjames, and he had no Arctic experience at all. His experience was out in the Orient, but for some reason Barrow favoured him. He was a protege of Barrow's, and Barrow got him the job as second in command on HMS Erebus. One thing about Fitzjames that I like very much, he was quite an amusing man. He wrote lovely little pen portraits of all the other officers and great letters about where they were going. So thanks to Fitzjames, you know a little bit about this man who is called Henry Thomas Dundas Le Vescomte, known as Fred to his friends. This is actually a very significant picture because this is the only photograph of Erebus, the only time Erebus was ever photographed. He was photographed on the deck, the only one of the officers who was. You can see the mast behind, you can see the two wheels, steering wheels of the ship. And he's holding the code book of the ship itself. So this is a very, very important picture for Erebus files because we can sort of see a little glimpse of what it was like before they left on the journey. And yes, Fitzjames had his, as I say, little pen portrait of them all, and he noted that Henry Thomas Dundas Le Vescomte was shy and reserved and had bow legs. Nice to remember that, isn't it? We can't see them terribly well there. James Reed was the ice master from Aberdeen. In all the Antarctic voyages, all the ice they went through in 4 years, they had no ice master. They had no professional who would be up in the foretopmast looking for the leads in the ice as they went. But on this expedition, which was actually sort of so incredibly well equipped, they had this very experienced ice master. This is Lieutenant Devoe, only 19 years old, described by Fitzjames as a most unexceptionable, clever, agreeable, light-hearted, obliging young fellow who had one glass eye. These are things that matter to him. This is Stephen Stanley, the ship's surgeon. He's rather inclined to be good-looking, but fat, with jet black hair, very white hands, which are always abominably clean, and the shirt sleeves tucked up, giving one unpleasant ideas he wouldn't mind cutting one's leg off immediately, if not sooner. This Lieutenant Edward Capt, a little black-haired, smooth-faced fellow, writes, reads, works, draws, all quietly. I can find no remarkable point in his character, except perhaps that he's, I should think, obstinate. Poor guy, you know, yeah. Obstinate, perfectly normal to me, anyway. Here was Harry Goodsir, he's 26. He was also the naturalist of the expedition, and Fitzjames clearly had time for him. He's long and straight and walks upright on his toes, with his hands tucked up into each jacket pocket. He laughs delightfully. And here's Charles Osborne the purser. At 46, he was an Arctic veteran. I was first inclined to think of him as a stupid old man, but he is as merry-hearted as any young man, full of quaint, dry sayings, always laughing, never a bore, takes his pinch of snuff after dinner, beats me at chess. So little tiny glimpses of what it was like, the camaraderie on board ship. These people are going to be spending an awful lot of time together. And thank goodness we have someone like Fitzjames to give us those little tiny insights. The average age of all the crew and the officers who went on Erebus up the North West Passage was actually 28 years old. So the only man who was photographed who was not on Erebus was Francis Crozier, the captain of the Terror. Crozier, after taking a year to sort of recover really from sort of the Antarctic and a sort of depressive period, decided that he would accept the captaincy of HMS Terror. I think he felt he ought to, just because you know, he sailed her before, he knew the ship. And there's also, I think, in this whole story, a feeling he wasn't really sure about John Franklin. He was a Clark Ross man. He liked the professionalism and the ability of Clark Ross. Franklin had not commanded an expedition for 10 years or more. And also there's something about Franklin that was kind of not Crozier's type. For instance, when they went up through the North Sea and across the North Atlantic, and Franklin was a very clubbable man, very jolly. He liked to have people round for dinner, and he would have 3 officers every night to come to dinner at his table on board the ship. And Crozier, being second in command of the entire expedition, was invited to almost every dinner. And it was all right for the people on Erebus. They just had to go down the corridor, sit down. Poor old Crozier had to get there, put a boat down the ladder, into the boat, across the North Atlantic, through the waves, up a ladder, onto the ship, 3-course dinner with cigars and port and brandy and choice of wines, and a cigar, then down the ladder again, into a boat, across the North Atlantic, up a ladder and onto his own ship. No wonder he wrote, "I can't bear another dinner with Captain Franklin."